expected to have occurred, but he cautions at this time no one, including the IAEA, is in a position to have fully assessed the underground damage at Fordo. I'm Charles de Ledesma.
With reporters, the EU's Kaja Kallas says there has to be a diplomatic solution to have a long-term perspective on this. A day after the US joined Israel's war in Iran by launching strikes on 3 of the country's nuclear sites.
Ministers are very much focused on the diplomatic solution, and also the concerns of retaliation and this war escalating are huge. Especially closing of the Strait of Hormuz by Iran is something that it would be extremely dangerous and not good for anybody.
Meanwhile, investors are watching closely to see how Iran will react. The price of oil initially jumped more than 2%, but later fell back about 0.4%. U.S. stock futures edged higher, and share benchmarks in Europe and Asia were mixed. This is AP News. The Thunder are NBA champions for the first time in Oklahoma City. Correspondent Gethin Coolbaugh reports.
In a winner-take-all Game 7, the Thunder defeated the Pacers 103-91 to win the NBA Finals.
It feels good to be a champion.
Shai Gilgeous-Alexander had 29 points and 12 assists and was named Finals MVP, helping the franchise win its first title in Oklahoma City.
Feels amazing. So much weight off my shoulders. So much stress relieved.
Indiana's pursuit of its first NBA title was dealt a major blow in the first quarter when Pacers star Tyrese Halliburton exited after suffering a lower right leg injury that his father said was an Achilles injury. Pacers coach Rick Carlisle.
Our hearts go out to him, but so proud of everyone.
I'm Gethin Coolbaugh.
And I'm Marcela Sanchez, AP News. Have a good morning.
This is 820 AM, WCPT Willow Springs, and streaming worldwide at WCPT820.com. We are Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. Now, your WCPT 820 weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. An extreme heat warning remains in effect. We'll see sunny skies here for today with a high in the mid-90s, heat indices over 100, breezy southwest winds at 10 to 20 miles per hour, gusting as high as 35. For tonight, a slight chance for showers and storms, partly cloudy, low near 75. By Tuesday, chance for showers and thunderstorms, a blend of clouds and sunshine develops. We'll see a high around 90 degrees. That's your latest Chicago weather update.
Currently, it's 79.
Get ready for July 4th with early savings at Lowe's. Right now, get up to 40% off select major appliances and get an additional 10% off 2 or more select major appliances. Plus, get 3 Stay Green or premium 2 cubic foot mulch bags for just $10. These deals are coming in hot. Lowe's, we help, you save. Valid through 6/25. Selection varies by location. While supplies last. See Lowe's.com for more details. Excludes Alaska and Hawaii.
The far left's anti-ICE riots.
Republicans are so dumb. Because at WCPT, we go to Riot Fest to riot, baby! Riot Fest is back in Douglas Park, September 19th through the 21st. Come see all your favorite bands, Blink-182, Alkaline Trio, Weird Al Yankovic, Weezer, Green Day, and many more. Tickets are still on sale at riotfest.org, but lucky for you, if you join the WCPT 820 Club, WCPT will send you to Riot Fest! Riot Fest! September 19th through the 21st at Douglas Park in Chicago.
Because facts matter. You're listening to WCPT 820.
Welcome to Choose Views with Richard Chew. Get ready to dive into a world of insightful conversations and thought-provoking discussions.
As progressives, our job is to have an all-inclusive, full-on assault with all of our players.
A show that focuses on moving our political, social, economic, gender, and cultural conversation forward.
And all of our players means all of our players.
It's Choose Views. And now, here's your host, Richard Chew.
Good Monday morning, progressives, and welcome to the June 23rd, 2025 edition of Choose Views. 773-763-9278 is our Credo mobile phone and text line. Facebook Live, TuneIn Radio, YouTube, and iHeartRadio. You can email me, of course, at richard@wcpt820.com. Catch me over at Substack, and most definitely catch all of our shows by subscribing to our WCPT podcast on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. There you can get Choose Views, short version and long versions with those featured interviews. Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive, driving it home with Patty Vasquez. The Big Picture with Edwin Eisendrath, and all of our other shows. Of course, Out Chicago being one of them, the family meeting, all those good things that we do. We got Politics Bar that's on in the evenings. We got a whole day and a whole week of shows. So make sure you're checking out all of our stuff. And in terms of making sure you're checking something out, make your way over to heartlandsignal.com, which is our digital platform. And we have, as always, really good articles and additional clips for you guys to check out there. It's a good place to be, as always, to send information to people. I come across people every now and again, Devin, that will say, where can I get more information? And so that's what I've been telling people more and more, even face-to-face when I see people out and about, to go over to heartlandsignal.com and make your way around that platform. But right now, check this out, progressives.
Let me be clear. Donald Trump just launched airstrikes on Iran's nuclear facilities. Not with any congressional approval, not with any real plan, just another ego-driven decision from a man who treats war like it's a reality show ratings boost. And I don't want to hear anyone say, but he didn't declare war. That's semantics. When you bomb another country's nuclear sites, that is an act of war, full stop. Do you guys understand what this could unleash? Iran is already vowing retaliation. The region is a powder keg. U.S. troops are stationed all over the Middle East. Those are real lives now that are in the line of fire. We're talking escalation, more airstrikes, potential terrorist reprisals, oil price spikes, possible cyber attacks on U.S. infrastructure. Guys, this isn't just some decisive action. This is reckless. And for what? To look tough? To deflect from a failing economy or a court case or whatever scandal of the week it is? We've already seen this movie before. Bush in Iraq. Lies about weapons of mass destruction, endless war, thousands of American lives lost, trillions of dollars wasted, veterans with PTSD, families shattered. And now Trump is wanting to run it back? This isn't leadership. This is a dangerous man lighting matches next to a gas leak because he wants to feel powerful again. And I don't care if you are left, right, or somewhere in the middle. Nobody should be cheering this on. This is the kind of decision that changes the world, and it's not for the better.
Yeah, the last sentence, the last statement, it is the kind of the type of decision, the type of action that can change the world in a negative way. And we're going to talk about it today. On today's show, our guests are going to include Sarah Jones from Politicus USA, and I know that we'll talk about this latest breaking, event. And then, we're going to talk with two wonderful women when we talk about policy that impacts folks, this is certainly a conversation that we're going to have with Caitlin Cash and Veronica Ingham, who are part of an organization that you may not be familiar with, Free and Just. And I remember, you guys will probably remember a couple years ago, the lawsuit down in Texas regarding the mother and some other plaintiffs back in 2023 when it comes to abortion, women's reproductive rights. It's a powerful story. We'll have those two women with us in the 7:30 hour to talk about some decisions that have been made and legislation, but also an event that they've got coming up. And so looking forward to having them with us and to speak to that. So, but I think that the big story right now, as we all know at this point, is that Donald Trump, not the United States, but Donald Trump has decided that, and did decide. And when I heard him last week saying, he was during one of the press conferences, that, he might or he might not. When I heard that told me that he was going to do something. What specifically? Didn't know, of course, but here we are. And during the next, the 6:30 hour to 7, we'll definitely want to take your call. So give us a call this morning so we can chat. I know you guys probably have a lot to say about this, so I want to hear from you and hear what you have to say. Let's talk about it. Let's see how we can make a little bit of sense out of it. And if you're just frustrated with it once again, then call me and we'll talk about it. But, at the end of the day, guys, this is a situation that many, many, many experts are saying and have said did not need to happen. I am not a any expert in the space of nuclear. I'm not an expert in the space of, the negotiations that go around this. But what I will say is this is from my observation, this is clearly a wag the dog situation. And this is clearly a situation where, and some people might say, well, Richard, you're really just oversimplifying this. I thought about all the possible things that people might say back to me, Devin, for how I might take a perspective on this. And ultimately, for me, when I say it's a wag the dog situation, part of where that's coming from is that we know that there are all these items that we're facing here domestically that if Iran is truly a threat, and if the development of their nuclear arsenal is a threat, then diplomacy can work if you have the right people at the table that can handle the diplomacy. And we don't have the right people at the table. So that's part of the basis for me of saying that this is not necessary. And there are a number of clips, and I couldn't get one to Devin in time for us to use. I don't think we got the one of Netanyahu. Probably don't think we didn't. But the point I'm making is this is a drumbeat, beat for war that has been going on for, going back to the Clinton administration. Netanyahu has wanted this for a long time. And now he has it because he has an idiot. We have an idiot. The world has an idiot in the White House. There's no two ways around it. The soft language about, well, we can't call. No, this is if you want to, be nice, it's idiotic behavior. It's irresponsible. It's reckless. All those things. But like the clip says, it threatens to change the way that we are existing in this world. Now, there's a lot of speculation around what the Iranian leadership may do. And there's a lot of, sort of machismo from American warmongers that are saying things like, well, we dare them to try to block the Straits of Hormuz, or we dare them to do things that would cause a change in the price of oil, which would then be the change of the price of gas for us at the pump. But at the end of the day, they don't know exactly what Iran's going to do. I think one of the most, I guess you could say, things that caught my eye is something that comes from Malcolm Nance. And you guys have all heard Malcolm. You've maybe seen his some of his work, you've read some of his books. But, the concern that everyone should have in this space is that, Iran is not, I don't see Iran not doing something in terms of a form of retaliation. Exactly what it is, we don't know. The Iranian parliament, from what I've read, and I hope, I'm speaking this accurately and not too early, but they've made decisions to vote to approve to actually affect what's happening in the Straits of Hormuz. And I use that language because, we can't say what they're going to do, but they're going to do something. And I go back to my start. We did not need to engage in this way. We don't have diplomats sitting at the table that know how to negotiate around this and keep the peace, which should be one of our primary objectives. And going to war or bombing a country that hasn't actually attacked us isn't a form of keeping the peace. And strength is not, we have to define, maybe the Republicans, the GOP, the MAGA supporters need to maybe redefine what strength is. Sometimes strength, I think more often than not, in many cases, comes from restraint. And this administration has none of that. And the people that seem to are following and propping up this decision have none of that. When we come back from this break, I want to talk about some things that Malcolm Nance, who is an expert in this space, I would say most definitely very well versed in this space, talks about. And then we've got some other pieces that we're going to dive into a little bit. The number is 773-763-9278. This is Choose Views, and we'll be right back.
WCPT 20th Anniversary Replay 2023.
Welcome to the WCPT AM 820 Mayoral Forum. We are so glad all the candidates are here. Commissioner Johnson, you clearly have the support of the Chicago Teachers Union, endorsements, money from them. How are you going to balance those ties with the obligation to oversee CPS as mayor?
Well, again, no one has better incentive on this stage for the city of Chicago to work, particularly its public schools, than someone who is actually sending their children to the Chicago public schools. I think I'll be the first mayor in recent history to actually have children in public schools. Here's the second thing: elected representative school board. We fought for it. We have it. We're going to be negotiating not just with an elected representative school board, the city council, the state of Illinois, the Congress. So it's going to take all of us, because the politics of old has left us behind.
Listening to WCPT 820. Because facts matter.
Because facts matter. You are listening to WCPT 820.
Good morning. You're waking up with Richard Chu.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning.
We're live and ready to hear from you. Text or call us now at 773-763-9278. Same number. Simple as that. Let's get the conversation going on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
Hey, progressives, welcome back to the show. 773-763-9278 is our Credo mobile phone and text line. So there's a lot that's out there, and I'm going to do my best this morning to present some different thinking, present some updated information, and, of course, talk about why this is, in my observation, it's just purely the least it's the least prudent thing to do. Because here are some of the things that I read from Malcolm Nance that are worst-case scenario options. One of them is bombard every U.S. base in Saudi, Iraq, Qatar, and Bahrain with short-range ballistic missiles and kill whomever they can, in terms of what the Iranian government could decide to do. Mine the Straits of Hormuz, declare a shipping embargo until the U.S. is economically broken or damaged severely. Call on a Shia jihad against any and all Americans worldwide. These are some of the things that Malcolm presents as things that Iran could do. We don't know that they won't do them, but we do know that, or we have to be mindful of the fact that they could do them. One of the other things that's come about in the last little bit, certainly overnight, last night to this morning, is that now they're finding out from some reporting, and this is where Trump's big mouth gets him further and further into trouble. You know, the fact that we were even having a conversation last week about if we would get involved, or that he said that he may or may not attack, is now lending itself to the possibility, strong possibility, that the Iranian government and the nuclear program, they moved a large amount of their uranium deposits away from where the attacks were going to take place. And so if that's in fact true, not only does this is this a nonsensical decision, but it was a highly ineffective one, if in fact that's what took place. So the problem, again, with that is we have an administration that doesn't have any idea of how to negotiate it, how to actually bargain, and how to work themselves through this type of a complex problem. And the proof of that is going back to his first term, when the agreement that President Obama had put in place, or had worked to get put in place, to monitor the Iranian nuclear development program, was working. It reminds me of a scene in the great comedy movie Beverly Hills Cop, the first one, when Eddie Murphy and the two detectives go into the nightclub, and some craziness breaks out, and Eddie Murphy saves the day. But when they get back to the police station, and the lieutenant asks him to explain what happens, he explains what happens, and everything was working fine. And then the two detectives, they told the truth, but the point is, it was working until they messed it up. And I don't mean to oversimplify, so please no one get your undies in a bundle. But the Obama negotiation, with some very good negotiators in that administration, had a plan in place and it was working. And if anybody wants to say that, that we had the right to go in and do what we did, I'd like you to prove it to the world that we had the right to go in. I mean, what's the right to do something? Or we had because the intelligence it's now coming out that the intelligence was flawed intelligence, which makes me think that the intelligence was cooked up. And what also is troubling, I try to stay away from that word, what also ticks me off about this is that once again, we get drawn into something because of somebody in the Middle East convincing a U.S. president that they had more information than they actually had. Bush situation, Bush did it, and now Trump has done it. And, it's when is America going to learn? When is America's right political gang going to learn? They're never going to learn, because they are more inclined to warmongering, to showing strength by, we've got all these, we have all this military armament, and we can do whatever we darn well please. Well, in this case, what we darn well pleased was a dumb A move. Really a dumb A move. And Netanyahu got what he wanted. He's been, beating this drum for decades to get an American president to do exactly. I mean, and if you don't believe me, if you don't believe that this is part of the GOP's conversation for years, do you guys remember during the Obama run for president, during the campaign, and John McCain was the Republican nominee? If you guys remember, there was a clip of him at either a press conference or a rally or something, and he was making light of the song Bob Iran, and he was on stage saying Bob Iran. Do y'all remember that? This was John McCain, the so-called reasonable, rational Republican. And I got, a little bit of love for John McCain and what he did with the Affordable Care Act, which is what he should have done. Doesn't get a medal for that. That's what he should have done, because many of the people in his state benefit from that legislation and the law that provides for the Affordable Care support. But John McCain was running around doing this back in 2007 and 8 during the run up to the election. So the GOP has wanted, and I say that largely, not every person in the GOP wants to see us bomb another country, but largely the GOP's leadership voices have been leaning in this direction for a long time. And I thought about this yesterday afternoon, when McCain, did that little thing on the stage. You guys pull it up. I'm not making it up. It's out there. So why? I want to know what you guys think, why this has happened. And if you are an intelligence expert and you can say to me, Richard, this is okay, great, let's have that conversation. But I've done a little bit of research, and I've been paying attention to this. And here's one of the things that a lot of people will probably try to say, that their program was becoming so enriched and so ready that we had to step in and do this. Well, let me provide a little bit of context to that in terms of enrichment and the whole nuclear, I guess you could say, support groups, if you want to call it that. This is the Russian, one of the Russian leaders, Medvedev, says that, in a quote, Iran will continue enrichment of nuclear material and future production of nuclear weapons. Several countries are ready to directly supply Iran with their own nuclear warheads. This is coming from this is Dmitry Medvedev. A number of countries are ready to directly supply Iran. Directly. See, this is the key word is not the number of countries. That's not the key part of this. Not are ready, but the key part of this for me is directly supply Iran with their own nuclear warheads. So if they're going to directly, Devin, supply them with them, then who cares about the ability to have uranium enriched to be able to be part of the warhead trigger system? It doesn't matter. It's like, hey, man, here you go. I got some old ones. We aren't using them. Y'all take them. And again, I'm not oversimplifying this. I'm not trying to water it down. I'm just saying this in the context of what sense was it to do this? To tick off a country that has more than enough anger at so many other parts of the Western world to now do something like this. And you don't conduct strikes. I don't care what anybody has to say. You can see the evidence. You don't conduct strikes like this and walk away and say, there were no civilians that were injured. There were no people that suffered, and that we had perfect strikes and it was only to hit their missile development locations. No, there are people who were injured, and people, we won't see the numbers. I don't think the mainstream media will do their job in this space. There are innocent people that were killed. And then you can't blame that on the leadership of Iran. And I saw some texts last week where people said, yeah, I've got Iranian friends and they hate the Iranian government. I don't stand in the way of that. I hate parts of the American government. And I'm sure that there are people in other parts of the world that don't like the American government. But does that mean that they have the right to then attack? Trust me, Devin. If a country that says that the United States shouldn't have the number of I saw this one really like tripped me out. Who knows approximately how many military aircraft we have? Anybody have an idea? Just call in, text in if you think you know what that number is. How many we have, and then who are the next two countries in terms of the amount that they have? It will blow you away what the numbers are. But if a country decided, hey, we don't like the fact that the Americans have these many airplanes, and they decide they're going to attack a ship of ours that's in their mind in the wrong position. So what, is that right for them to be able to say, we don't like it, so we're going to... And again, guys, I'm trying not to oversimplify this. I'm looking at this from a very common sense perspective. We did not need to do this. We chose to do this because Donald Trump wanted to do this on the orders of who? Benjamin Netanyahu. He's been saying for 2 decades plus that the Iranians are very close. The Iranians are very close. He's been beating that drum for over 2 decades that I can remember. And some of you may know more dates than I do in this space, but for 20 plus years, that's the drum he's been beating. And he's been on American media. He's been on Israeli media. He's been on media in other places that he's gone, and he's traveled to other countries, beating the drum. And now he finally got his puppet. So if you thought that Donald was Putin's puppet, he's Putin's puppet. He's Bibi's Netanyahu's puppet. And here we are. And so we have to pay attention here, guys. We can't bury our heads and go, this is over there. It's not going to happen here. The last time we had that mindset, 9/11 took place. The intel was out there, and we had a president and an administration who didn't look at it, didn't pay attention to it, didn't think it was going to happen, and here we are. So we're going to take a quick break, guys. The number is 773-763-9278. This is Choose Views on the Credo mobile phone and text line. When we come back, we'll try to grab some of your calls.
Celebrate the culmination of Pride Month in Chicago by attending the Chicago Pride Parade, a celebration of love and unity on Sunday, June 29th. This year's theme, United in Pride, highlights the power of coming together, embracing our diversity, and championing love and equality as one united force. Together, we are unstoppable. You can watch anywhere along the route, from Broadway and Grace to Diversey and Sheridan. For more information, visit pridechicago.org and make sure to keep your eyes out for the WCPT float. If you can't attend the parade in person, you can listen live as Scott Duff and Ellen Miller describe all the excitement on WCPT 820 on Sunday, June 29th from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. The WCPT live parade broadcast is sponsored by the Center in Halstead and by Credo Mobile, a progressive phone company that is better for all people and the planet. Visit credomobile.com. WCPT 820, your pride station in Chicago.
You're listening to WCPT 820. Here's the latest Chicago weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. An extreme heat warning remains in effect. We'll see sunny skies here for today with a high in the mid-90s, heat indices over 100, breezy southwest winds at 10 to 20 miles per hour, gusting as high as 35. For tonight, a slight chance for showers and storms, partly cloudy, a low near 75. By Tuesday, chance for showers and thunderstorms, a blend of clouds and sunshine develops. We'll see a high around 90 degrees. That's your latest Chicago weather update.
Currently, it's 79.
Hey Google, play WCPT.
Streaming Chicago's progressive talk from TuneIn.
It's Choose View with Richard Chew on WCPT 820, where facts matter.
Hey, progressives, welcome back to the show, 773-763-9278. Today on Live, Local, and Progressive, Joan Esposito will be talking to North Central College political science professor William Muck, Middle East expert Andrew Miller, who is a senior fellow at the Center for American Progress, and Carol Bakhta, surgical oncologist with City of Hope. Also this week, reproductive rights activist Kate Cox, minority leader of the Missouri House of Representatives, Ashley Awney, and the great Mike Flannery. You guys know him from years and years of journalism here in Chicago. That's Live, Local, and Progressive, 2 to 5 p.m. here on WCPT, Chicago's progressive talk for 20 years. Tonight on Driving It Home, Patty Vasquez will be joined by guest host Dan Schaefer and their guest, Dr. Kristen Lyerly, OBGYN, comedian Tamale Shep, Second City Outlaws, and political and community activist Richard Streetman. Driving It Home with Patty Vasquez, weekdays 5 to 7. That's not 2 to 5, 5 to 7, here on WCPT AM 820, Heartland Signal, TuneIn, YouTube, and Facebook. There you go. All right. So let's grab a couple of calls, Devin. Let's see what we got going on this morning. Let's go to Jim here in Chicago. Good morning, Jim.
Good morning, Rich. I've been thinking about your choice for ruling the world, and I go with Moms Mabley. Our choice is for Redfax, Gleason, and then I thought it over the last few days. Moms Mabley, if she's still living, I'd like to see her rule the world. But you know what I think about this morning? Where is the milk of human kindness? I don't care what think group. It isn't ALEC. Actually, that's a blueprint for the Streeze's Republican Party to rule the world, the one-party rule, and the Cato Institute and Hillsdale College and Prager University and all these other ridiculous things. But all I can tell you is this. I don't have to Google or rely on AI to see what kindness looks like. I know in my own life the kindness has been extended to me have helped me immensely. Yeah. And what's missing in the Republican Party, and this goes historically. I go back to FDR. They have no idea what the word kindness means. You can see by their legislation that they're trying to appeal the Affordable Care Act. Mm-hmm. You see this bill they've got in front of us. The misery it's going to inflict on people. The Supreme Court, which was bought and paid for by billionaires, Sheldon Whitehouse displayed it. The price in everyone's head. $50 million, $25 million for Barrett. This is the money they spent to capture the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
And are they really ruling in the favor of the American public? No, they've taken away the right women to have perfect medical care. That's nobody else's business but theirs. And then this ruling on gender affirming care is insane. When you have, we're in the 21st century. We have the medicine to mitigate these problems.
Yeah, we do.
But they're going to deny. They're going to deny it. They're going to deny it to people. Out of complete. I don't know what their motive is for that. Are they really going to legislate morality from the bench? Are they their morality? Those 6 judges are going to impose their morality on 320 million Americans. And as far as this insane thing is gone, I'm thinking about the poor people in Palestine this morning. They're being murdered. Now imagine you've got a tin cup in your hand, and you're looking for some porridge, and the person who's dishing out shoots you through the head.
Yeah.
Now that's the world we're living in. And the Iranians, the first Netanyahu, Yahoo is the right word for this guy. The first strike killed, I think, 1,000 innocent Iranians.
Yeah.
And you got to remember the history of these places. Iran is Persia. It's thousands of years old. Palestine's got 4,000 years behind it. We've only got 250 years, and we can't impose those 250 years on cultures that are thousands of years old.
Yeah.
It just can't be. Maybe if we think we could blow them to smithereens, maybe Alec and the Republican think tanks, that's the way to go, and then the billionaires could just take over whichever left over in their bomb shelters, I guess.
Yeah.
Real quick, Chris. A guy was selling bomb shelters in California. This is 50 years ago. So the reporter asked him, what are the prices of bomb shelters? He goes, well, you can get a $500,000 bomb shelter all fixed up, your own water and oxygen and everything else. And he gets it goes down to $50,000. So the reporter asks, have you got one? He goes, you think I'm nuts? Anyway, Rich.
Thanks, Jim.
Anyway, have a good morning. Thank you, Rich.
You too. Bye-bye. Oh boy, Jim, adding a little bit of comedic flair to the moment. He said something though that I wanted to come back to in terms of the history of Palestine and Palestinians, and specifically in this region of the country in the Middle East. And he touched on the history of Iran. Part of the other group, or the other group that's part of this push, is the Christian right in America. This radical Christian nationalistic right is a big part of this. And all you have to do is look at the people who have been the warmongers going back to Bush 2, and then, do a little bit of research on groups that they're affiliated with. But the Christian right wants this because they want to see purging of people who are not Christian across the globe. They've made that clear. They've made that very, very clear, not just in the United States, but anywhere across the globe. And the neocons have always, and I say always because it's true, they've always been 1 or 2 degrees of separation away from some religious belief that they're if people don't genuflect to Christian beliefs, then they need to be persecuted. They need to be in some way eliminated. And you can see it based on how oftentimes regular everyday folks in America push the agenda and speak to, but these people don't understand God. It's true. Just do your own research. I'm just putting that out there, kind of seeding that ground so you can do your own research in that space. But that's a conversation that has been had by so many of the folks on the Christian right in America. And, I look at this and say, just leave these people alone. As it relates to leaving people alone, here's something that I want to just share with you, because someone sent me this and said, not this what I'm about to read, but someone said, but Richard, it's the Iranian government. The people of Iran don't like well, I said a moment ago earlier that I don't like all parts of our government. And I'm sure that there's other people in the world that don't. So does that give them the right to suddenly come and say, because we don't like the government and how the government's treating its people, we're going to attack the United States of America or military installations? I mean, let's be honest. There are people who could say that it's destructive and dangerous to the safety of the world for the United States to be sending in ICE, or they could, or the historical racism, blatant racism in this country. Do you realize that countries could get together and say, we don't like that? And because we don't like that and how it's impacting the safety of the world, we're going to come and we're going to attack the United States of America. I mean, people could bend themselves into a pretzel with some garbage like that. And again, I'm not oversimplifying it. I'm saying it is not the United States' responsibility to do what we did, or to do what Trump did. And I saw this, and this really kind of strikes a chord in what I mean about the people. The people of Iran are beautiful. The leaders of Iran are insane. The people of Israel are beautiful. The leaders of Israel are insane. And of course, the people of America are beautiful. The leaders of America are insane. I don't think that that's too far off. The people, and I said this a couple of years ago, right after the attack, the Palestinian attack of Israel, and then Israel's response. Well, the response clearly has left thousands of people dead, hundreds of thousands of people displaced. The military and the government conducted those attacks, not the people of Israel. So when someone says you are, because I've been called by people who said that I was against Israel and that I was being anti-Semitic. Eric Grant and I both have been referred to as being anti-Semitic because we didn't get behind Netanyahu and his government's heavy-handedness with the situation in the Middle East, specifically in Gaza. No, I'm not even, you can't call me an anti-Semite, but you can call me abusive government of Israel. I'm definitely that. And Israel conducted the attacks on Iran. Initially, Iran didn't attack Israel. So like this piece says, the people of Iran are beautiful. The leaders are insane. I wouldn't argue with that. The people of Israel are beautiful. The leaders are insane. And the people of America are beautiful. The leaders of America are insane. And in this current administration, they most definitely are. I said wag the dog earlier, and I'm going to come back to a couple of points of what I think they are. This bill that the administration, no, specifically the GOP, the Republicans in the House, are trying to get through is part of the wag the dog. The other one, the bad parade, and how much of a waste that was. How they're conducting themselves as it relates to ICE and the raids. And then the other one is the Epstein files and documents. These are all things that are on Trump's coattails right now. And the distraction of this attack is to get us to not talk about those other items. And the other thing is this assassination that took place by this American-born terrorist in Minnesota. You notice how all of those things are now taking a little bit of a second chair to this attack. It's a distraction. So when I say pay attention, and when I say, yes, we know this is happening, I want you guys to please pay attention. Don't get lost in this. This is a terrible thing that's happened, and we're going to have to navigate our way through what Iran decides to do. And frankly, what other countries in the area may decide to do. And Russia's one of them. Russia's a country that could step to the mic and say what they've got to say and do what they've got to do. They could escalate their attacks in Ukraine now. Because America attacked Iran. Russia could say, you know what, we're going to amp up our attacks. And it just makes the world hotter and hotter. And when Sarah and I are talking, when Sarah's on at 7, we're going to talk a little bit about a couple of the articles that she's written in the last 24, 36 hours in this space and really kind of get into that a little bit. But let's take a quick break, Devin. When we come back, we're going to get calls back after back after back.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
800-708-3091. 800-708-3091. 800-708-3091. That's 800-708-3091.
WCPT 820, Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter.
It's Choose Views with Richard Chu on WCPT 820, Chicago's progressive talk.
Hey, progressives, welcome back to the show. Devin, let's grab some quick calls. Let's go to Dave in Hoffman Estates. Good morning, Dave. Welcome to the show.
Hey, good morning, Richard. Yeah, let's remember they had stormed our embassy after they got upset with the fact that we took in the Shah for medical that time. And then he obviously wasn't a good dude, but they never stormed America's embassies before that, And then in 1980, April, we had that failed hostage rescue attempt, and that was a combination of inadequate planning, poor weather conditions. Several of the helicopters had malfunctioned, and in fact, one hit into that C-130, I believe it was, on the ground, and that's when it went into a big fireball, and we got, in a long, and we got embarrassed and infuriated on that because they had desecrated some of those corpses, those burnt corpses, and took pictures of it. And that one I remember well because after that failed attempt, we were on alert that time. And then, luckily, though, we had a president with a smarter mind there that he called it off, because back then the Army wasn't talking to the Marines and vice versa, and it was what they call stovepiping the information too. But now I worry. I really worry about what's going to happen now because if you recall, these Iranians, they are slow to do the stuff. They let it do. If you remember Salman Rushdie, how many years was it that satanic?
I have to be the one to say I'm cautious to say a group of people, the Iranians, the Iranian group. As I said a moment ago, the Iranian people are beautiful. The Iranian leadership is insane, which is not a label that the American leadership wouldn't be would be appropriate for the American leadership right now. And so it's not that we don't have. Here's the problem, Dave. We don't have qualified people in this administration. All they had to do was leave in the previous Trump term, just have left Obama's deal in place and had people there. I mean, it didn't get any worse during Biden's 4 years, but suddenly, all of a sudden, in less than 6 months, and Kamala Harris said it would happen. In 6 months, we'd be at war, and here we are.
Yeah. Hey, you mentioned some of those righties. I believe, don't they got a lot of these are end of times people? They figure this.
Oh, you mean in terms of their faith beliefs?
Yeah, well, they believe that that's where the world's going to end, and that they're going to be captured up for what.
Yeah. No, I know. I've listened to that carnage and craziness before. So, Dave, thanks, my man, for the call. I appreciate you giving us a shout this morning. All right. Talk to you soon. You too. Bye-bye. All right. Let's see real quickly. Let's go to let's go to Al in Franklin Park. Hey, Al. Good morning and welcome to the show.
Hi, Richard. Boy, there's a boatload of information here, but
I was going to go a little bit. Well, the first thing is that at the point we are, we just have to make our voices heard and be calling Congress right now and telling them, to rein in, President, what's his name? Yeah, that's him. But I had, I made a mistake of putting on Charlie Kirk right after this happened. And he is a Christian nationalist, and he came running into the studio to talk about this stuff, and he says, we have to trust the commander-in-chief and his judgment. And then he said, they're talking about this and how he's giving us the nonpartisan view. And then he's saying, and I'm texting with the members of the administration right now to get the pulse of what's going on. And so when you look at these people that are the ones that have the ear of our government, you can see where we are, and that we have to, just get our voices here, and we have to understand that this is what's happening right now. And you get to all this Christian nationalism. I keep wondering, what does Charlie Kirk believe? And then I'm hearing that his mentor was David Horowitz, that just passed away, and he was the one saying, go out there and be bold and talk on campuses and so on and so forth. And he's getting people at this point. And then he's, you get to this rapture stuff and so on, and he's advertising he's advertising Alan Jackson, the minister, and he's on TBN, Trinity Broadcasting Network, and Charlie Kirk is on the Salem channel. Yeah. And so they all work together, and they all are giving their views, and we got to understand this stuff and to be able to get it, to go against it. And the last thing I'll say.
Go ahead, real quick.
The last thing I'll say is perplexity has been amazing on some of this stuff, because I go in there and I say, what nation building did U.S. do in Iran? And it all makes sense, and I learn a few things, and in these large language models, and then I ask it who defined the borders in Africa, and it tells me that all this was done a long time ago, and so I'm learning a lot of information from. I hope I got the perplexity. I believe that's a correct pronunciation. These large language models are amazing, that what you can do with them right now, but you gotta always be aware that.
You got to be willing when you go to these different sites and different algorithms. You got to be super mindful of what data goes in. Is highly going to be highly impactful on what data comes out. So Al, thank you for your call this morning. Appreciate your time.
Yeah.
All right. Bye now. All righty. Let's see if we can grab a quick call from Pam. Good morning, Pam, and welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you, Richard. I know you don't have much time. Richard, I'm going to disagree. I don't think beautiful people here in this country would have voted for an adjudicated sexual abuser, a sociopath. I also don't think beautiful, decent people voted for this. Now that we're in this quagmire, every last person that voted against this adjudicated sexual abuser, we knew that he was capable of getting us in this mess.
That's true.
So now we have Democratic elected officials. I want to hear more than just them whining. What are you going to do? I don't care. Push articles of impeachment. It doesn't matter to me if it doesn't go anywhere. Push it. And then stop claiming that you're friends across the aisle.
Yeah, I hate that.
These Republicans are acting like your enemy, your adversary. And if they don't, Democratic elected officials, if they don't get into the mindset that you're dealing with your fascist adversaries, we're going to forever be in trouble. You got Israel and this country headed by fascist dictators. There is no democracy in Israel. Netanyahu is a criminal, just as Trump is. Both of them criminals.
Well, and I, first of all, thanks, Pam, because
And Richard, these are my opinions, Richard, not yours, because I don't want people to say, well, Richard called us, we're not decent. This is Pam saying that decent people wouldn't support an adjudicated sexual abuser. Yeah, I said it. I'll hang up, Richard, before I say go to. before I say something else. But thank you, Richard. What are we going to do about it? Let's also, Richard, we've got to do something about voter suppression. For me, that's what led us to Trump and not Harris. Thank you, Richard.
Thank you, Pam. I think that Pam's probably leaning into something that has to be repeated, though, and that is, we're not saying all Americans. And I don't know why we always have to, come back and clean that up oftentimes, but we're not saying all Americans are not beautiful. Americans are beautiful, but we've got some people right now who are not acting in a way. They are destructive to our country. Yeah, I said it too. They voted in a way they couldn't let racism and sexism that got in their way, clouded their minds. That's who they are, and they voted in a way that now their sons and daughters may be the ones that are at the tipping point of having to fight this war that we're going to be in. That's the truth, So I don't disagree with Pam. We have ugliness in our country. Yeah, I said it. We do. Because if we didn't, then some of the things that are happening right now with regard to this assassination up in Minnesota, or these thugs coming to neighborhoods and grabbing people, grabbing moms with babies in their arms. Maybe we should send some folks. Maybe we should roll up into some neighborhoods of these thugs and grab some of their, grab some women and babies. That's chaos. But and I'm saying it on this show and on this air because there's a lot of people who are feeling that that's the ugliness. The ugliness of this country is coming out in a way that is clearly not productive. It's harming people. That being said, to Pam's point, and the beauty of our country is there. It's just definitely not showing itself right now. On another point that Pam made that I want to not forget, Democrats, and please. No strongly worded letters. Just don't even write them. If you want to do something strong, go knock on the doors of your quote unquote colleagues that you like to use. Now, they're your enemies right now. I mean, that may be hard for some people to hear. The Republicans right now, in the Republican elected officials on all levels, based on what they're supporting, for people who got to get their undies in a bundle for what I'm about to say, they are the enemy right now to the country. Because their policies, their focus is not about helping people. It's about taking away. Look at every single thing that the Republican Party is doing on all levels. Yeah, local politicians here in Chicago, in the state of Illinois, it's about taking away from and hurting people. And so much of it is wrapped into this Christian nationalism. It just is, which is why I said what I said earlier about beliefs in the Middle East and what American Christian nationalists want to do with those beliefs, and frankly, throughout other parts of the world. So, yes, we have to have our Democratic elected officials decide that they're going to put on the armor and fight back. And it doesn't matter if the impeachment doesn't go through. Support that happens. Support that the bill gets, that your party puts it out there. That's what you're there for. So Representative Jeffries, Minority Leader Jeffries, and Chuck Schumer, no strongly worded letters. Please, we don't need to hear that. We don't need to see you go on. We need to, on any news show and say you've got a strongly written letter and this, that, and the other. Go on those shows and slam your hand on the table and say Donald Trump is say something meaningful about Donald Trump that's meaningful in the sense that people can buy into it. Go into a studio and sit down with any of the broadcasters that you're talking with that invited you to this show and slam your hand on the table and say enough is enough. How about that rather than a strongly worded letter? How about a strongly pounded hand on the table? That's what people want to see, Jeffries and Schumer and the rest of those in the halls of Congress that are democratically elected Democrats. I'm telling you, that's what they want to see and hear. They're tired of the strongly worded stuff. They want some tables knocked over. Forget about decorum. Bring some heat to the conversation. That's what people want. All right, Devin, let's take a quick break. The number is 773-763-9278. This is Choose Views, and we'll be right back.
This is a WCPT moment in labor. In the summer of 1881, 2 decades after the Civil War, 20 African-American laundresses met at a local church in Atlanta to form the Washing Society, a trade organization which looked to create a higher uniform wage and greater work autonomy for laundresses, also known as washerwomen. Through the help of local preachers and door-to-door canvassing, the Washing Society grew from 20 members to 3,000 in only a few weeks. The workers went on strike and faced opposition from their employers as well as the local politicians. The Atlanta City Council proposed a licensing fee for their organizing efforts. The strikers agreed to the fee in exchange for self-regulation. In the end, the City Council rejected the proposed fees and the laundresses prevailed. The impact of the strike led to increased wages for some, but showed that African American workers, including women, were vital to the New South economy. This has been a WCPT Moment in Labor. We're working for your rights.
From office supplies to IT essentials, Amazon Business provides tools that help you save costs and make insight-based decisions. Learn how to bring your visions to life at AmazonBusiness.com.
AP News, I'm Marcela Sanchez. Israel hit Iranian government targets in Iran, including the notorious Evin prison, following a series of missiles and drones fired by Iran at Israel. Iran's judiciary said the situation at the prison was under control. The Israeli military also confirmed it hit roads around Iran's Fordo enrichment facility to obstruct access to the site. The underground site was one of those hit in Sunday's attack by the U.S. Speaking to reporters, the Iranian ambassador to the IAEA, Reza Najafi, condemned the unprecedented act of aggression, saying it delivered a blow to the framework of the Non-Proliferation Treaty.
The recent unlawful act of aggression has delivered a fundamental and irreparable blow to the international non-proliferation regime, conclusively demonstrating that the existing NPT framework has been rendered ineffective in fulfilling its foundational objective.
AP correspondent Charles de Ledesma reports EU foreign ministers are meeting in Brussels to discuss multiple security issues, including the latest developments in Ukraine, Gaza, the Middle East and Iran.
EU Foreign Policy Chief Kaja Kallas says ministers are emphasizing diplomacy regarding the escalating situation in Iran.
Ministers are very much focused on the diplomatic solution and also the concerns of retaliation and this war escalating are huge. Especially closing of the Strait of Hormuz by Iran is something that it would be extremely dangerous and not good for anybody.
Several close US allies are urging a return to the negotiating table following American strikes on Iran that fuel fears of a wider conflict, while noting the threat posed by Tehran's nuclear program. I'm Charles de Ledesma.
This is AP News. AP correspondent Mike Hempen reports a Palestinian activist has been freed from federal immigration detention and says he'll keep on protesting.
Colombia protester Mahmoud Khalil was in a federal facility in Louisiana for 104 days and says messages from his supporters kept him going. He admits he's still trying to understand what it means to be free.
I'm still trying to just comprehend that.
Khalil says genocide is still happening in Gaza and it's being funded by the U.S. He says Israel is waging what he describes as a full war against the Palestinians.
This is what I was protesting. This is what I will continue to protest with every one of you. Not only if they threaten me with detention, even if they would kill me, I would still speak up for Palestine.
Khalil is reuniting in New York with his wife and infant son, who was born while he was detained. I'm Mike Hempen.
And I'm...
This is 820 AM, WCPT Willow Springs, and streaming worldwide at WCPT820.com. We are Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. Now, your WCPT 820 weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. An extreme heat warning remains in effect. We'll see sunny skies here for today with a high in the mid-90s, heat indices over 100, breezy southwest winds at 10 to 20 miles per hour, gusting as high as 35. For tonight, a slight chance for showers and storms, partly cloudy, a low near 75. By Tuesday, chance for showers and thunderstorms, a blend of clouds and sunshine develops. We'll see a high around 90 degrees. That's your latest Chicago weather update.
Currently, it's 81.
Are you a parent of a 2 to 8-year-old? Listen closely for an exciting offer, then head to abcmouse.com/radio to learn more.
By now, you've probably heard of ABC Mouse.
ABC Mouse is like a little one-on-one teacher. It has helped her so much.
We're offering a promo at abcmouse.com/radio to try it for free for a month. Then $14.99 per month until canceled. Go to abcmouse.com/radio to see this offer. That's abcmouse.com/radio. Actual ABC Mouse users compensated for their testimonials. Sponsored by Age of Learning.
This is WCPT 820, where facts matter.
Welcome to Choose Views with Richard Chew. Get ready to dive into a world of insightful conversations and thought-provoking discussions.
As progressives, our job is to have an all-inclusive, full-on assault with all of our players.
A show that focuses on moving our political, social, economic, gender, and cultural conversation forward.
And all of our players means all of our players.
It's Choose Views. And now, here's your host, Richard Chew.
Hey, progressives, welcome back to the show, 773-763-9278. So there are lots of people that are saying, hey, you know, we should have done this because it makes America stronger. Yeah, okay. Once again, resources wasted. And one of the biggest ones, believe it or not, is our political, our diplomatic strength wasted. To what end? To what end? And I've had people that have just in the last few minutes since the break said to me, "There's nothing that Schumer and Jeffries can do." I disagree strongly, because here's what they could or should do to show a sign of hope for American people, that they are paying attention and that they're going to push whatever agenda they can. And that's this: how about every Democratic elected person in the House of Representatives and every member of the Senate, Democratic member of the Senate, show up outside the Capitol building and show a press conference. See, sometimes the optics do matter. We always talk about Trump was good at optics. Well, show some optics. Show a sign of unity right now. I keep saying that the Republicans, the GOP, this Christian national crazies are trying to separate and divide us. Well, these elected officials in Washington should show that sign of unity, if nothing else, and call Trump a liar and a warmonger. Why not? I don't know. I think our good friend who is on hold and waiting to join us might have a few things to say about a lot of things. Good morning and welcome to the show, Sarah Jones from Politicus USA. Hey, Sarah, how are you this morning?
I'm so good. Thank you for having me on. I'm really looking forward to this discussion. And before we started, I also wanted to say a shout out to John in Palo Alto for the wonderful email he sent me from listening on your show. So thank you, John, and I enjoy all of your listeners so much. So, yeah, this whole situation that's going on, I just wanted to lay out, when you brought up the optics, I think if I had to say what was motivating this, both on Netanyahu's part and on Trump's part, it would be optics, because both men were facing, Netanyahu has been facing protests, nonstop protests of his, judicial reform, quote unquote. That's what they call his right-wing undermining, which is exactly what Trump is doing here. He's been facing all these protests. He's also got that several fraud trials going on.
Right.
And he was, the opposition called for a vote of no confidence. And so that's where he was. And here's Trump, right? He has this very under-attended military parade for his birthday on the same day that two Democrats were assassinated and two other Democratic lawmakers there was an attempted assassination. That's, while it's tragic, it's also politically bad optics for Trump, because we see this kind of violence. Whenever he's around, it just ratchets up the violence. And the same day as the No Kings protests that were historic and around the globe. So he was this undermined, and all of his policies have failed Trump. Mm-hmm. There's nothing that is working, even his immigration policy. And so even on that same day, we have been inundated with all of these images and stories of his ICE agents, kidnapping children, kidnapping American citizens off the street. this is what, and that is not playing well. It's even undermined him in polling, and that was the last issue that he was polling well on. Now, I will never understand why American voters think that Republicans are good on the economy or immigration. They're actually really bad at both, but this is what they get credit for all the time. And so he was facing all of this political undermining. He does not look like a strong man. He looks weak. The taco doctrine, all of that is what the story is, you know? And I call it his taco doctrine on everything, because it is, to me, it applies to everything. It's like his whole thing with North Korea in his first term was, you know, it's the bloody nose where you punch and then you get a peace deal or you get talks. This has never worked. It doesn't work. He's still thinking that this is going to get him some kind of, you know, the Nobel Peace Prize. So what does he do? He decides to do something that no other president would do, which is to do these military strikes on Iran. Without this coalition, not only did he not tell Democratic... Yeah, right. Not only did he not tell Congress and violate the Constitution, but there's also this lack. All you see, if you look at this from the entire, from a geopolitical standpoint and from international relations, it's just him and Netanyahu, both of who are, you know, facing convictions or convicted. Our president's a convicted felon. Both of whom are facing a public that doesn't like them, doesn't like their leadership, doesn't like them undermining the rule of law. And what do they decide to do? Now, I'm not trying to suggest that Iran is not a threat, but we do not know, you know, that there goes back to, I know everybody, I'm sure everyone in the audience is having flashbacks to, you know, Mission Accomplished and WMDs, right, from Bush. Like, that is the first thing that flashed in. Like, the first thing I said when this happened was like, oh, and you thought they had this because why? Is there any... But we know that Trump doesn't bother to establish facts before he acts.
And certainly
sometimes he makes things up.
And certainly not look at what would be credible intel regarding a situation that requires a certain amount of military temperament. And so, you know, Sarah, this is the frustrating part, and about all. There's so many frustrating parts, but for me, probably the biggest frustration part of this is when I go back and I look at what could have been, and I'm asked the question, what, you know, we all are going to have this conversation, and probably till something changes, is what could have been done differently in this previous election. I know that people don't want to relive the history of this last election, and I don't want to either. But what I look at where we are now, and I look at where we are potentially headed, this is one of those moments where I do, to Pam's point, if you were listening earlier, one of our callers, I do put a certain amount of this responsibility on the American people who could not see what you just said, and that is, this dude is a 34-time convicted felon. Why would you want to elect him to the office of the most powerful place in the country, if not the world? And then you can add to the list of all the things that should have discounted him from being elected. Yeah, he was a Republican candidate, and that is a Republican on the Republicans. But doggone it, America, what was wrong with you where you couldn't see that this... What's amazing to me, Sarah, is that darn near everything Hillary Clinton said in debate number 2, and pretty much everything that Kamala Harris said during various interviews has happened. And so we could get into they could have done it differently, better, all those different machinations. But ultimately, to your point, people forget that the country elected a 34-time convicted, twice adjudicated rapist that's blown apart businesses and has no negotiating skill at this level. And now
well, he has no negotiating skill on any level. He's just always used mafia tactics. That's how he does everything. And he thinks that works in this capacity, and it has never worked for him, and it is not working now. But this is how he approaches everything, is just using those sort of, where he, the mafia tactics, where he threatens people, and then they back down and give him what he wants, which we've seen from many law firms. To your point about why this happened, and it is, honestly, there is not an hour that goes by that I don't have a surge of grief and despair for my country and for women, really, because two of the most qualified women that, of any candidate, very, very
stack up two other guys. Take two other guys in the last 50 years and ask who were the two other men that would have been as qualified, certainly not more. And the two people that come to mind, candidly, are Barack Obama and Bill Clinton. And they got elected, but they were guys. And so, but these two women were even more qualified than they were, frankly. I mean, if you put resume to resume, they were right there.
Yeah, they were.
So
they were. It is just, I think for all the women, and I don't know, every woman that I speak to does have these feelings, and I don't know if it's universal, but to have that hope that this, I had such surging hope for Kamala Harris's campaign. I just could see her in the White House. I could see it all the time when she spoke. I could see her really handling so many aspects that a president should. Of course, now there's no bar. He doesn't do anything in there except play golf.
Remember, Sarah, remember when to your point about the visuals. Remember when people were talking about, or Trump was saying that she was going to get run over by the generals, or what the generals were going to, the commentary about what the generals were going to do to her, and what the other foreign leaders were going to do. Well, that just happened to Donald Trump. In the last since he's everything, all of those things have happened to Donald Trump, and just in terms of what then he would do to the American people. He's gotten us into a war with Iran. He's abandoned Ukraine and Europe. The wealth transfer to the wealthiest 1% of the country. Cuts to Medicare and Medicaid, SNAP, Social Security, selling our national parks. And the list goes on of the things that he's done that have been destructive to the country. Where is it helping anybody? From rural Arkansas to downtown Chicago.
Yeah. Where is the accountability for the campaign promises that he ran on? He said that he was going to bring peace to the Middle East, and he was the only person who could do it. He said that Israel would not have been, no strikes would ever come on Israel if he had been president. He has made those promises about Ukraine. Yeah, yep. I mean, how come none of that is ever brought up? But this was astonishing. That was the other thing. I thought I was actually, I was very close to having a complete. The similarities between the lead up to the Iraq invasion and this, because in the way the media is handling it, because the goalpost, it just keeps moving.
Yep.
It's like, so we're not going to talk about what he said he was going to do. So this diplomacy that he has, this deal making that he claims he has, so that's nothing, right? So that's a less than, we're not even at zero. We're at negative numbers here for how that's working out. It's not working out, and not working out in his tariff, and it's not working out here.
Nope, not at all.
No, but it's never brought up. It's just like, oh, this move here, he's doing this to keep America safe. Excuse me? Why then did the UN's International Atomic Energy Agency say that they found no increase in radiation after the U.S. strikes?
Yep. Listen, Iran did, irrespective of the politics between Iran and Israel, Iran did not attack. They did not send missiles first in these last 3 weeks. Israel did. And if Israel can't handle their business, then we should be handling their business for them. And particularly when you look at what the experts are saying, that have essentially taken a neutral position on what the actual amount of enrichment was and increased and any increases that are there. So, this attack was not necessary. People want to try to bend themselves into a pretzel, Sarah, to say we needed to do it. Why did we need to do it when we had other options and diplomacy?
If we needed to do it, he would have made a case to Democratic lawmakers, period, the end. He did not do that because there aren't the facts to back it up. That's the end of the story. That's why I don't understand why that dialogue's even being had. And I would also like to point out that in the last month or so, they moved, 2,000 FBI agents from the counterterrorism and counterintelligence departments, for example, to work on immigration. Yep. So while he's doing this, he has left the guy in charge of the DHS terrorism prevention team, the 22-year-old former gardener who has no experience in counterterrorism, which is giving Four Seasons total landscaping levels of competency. That's where we are now. While he's doing this dangerous thing, he doesn't think, and that, we thought Bush was negligent when it came to national security in some respects. Look at this.
Well, at least
He's
Bush
just leaving this country wide open.
At least Bush had some people around him who had some, background, if you want to call it that, in this area. As crazy as hawkish as it were, with Condoleezza Rice and Cheney and Rumsfeld and that whole Wolfowitz gang of folk. At least these folks had some experience in the space. But they still botched the intelligence. I don't even say they botched the intelligence. They knew that it was wrong. And that's why Colin Powell, that at the end of the day, the real litmus test for me about how wrong the Bush administration was the last time we had this drumbeat, to your point, is how Colin Powell was the one that finally came out because he realized he got kind of pimped into this situation to go in front of the UN with faulty information that they actually lied to him about. So here we are again. Even irrespective of the intelligence or lack thereof, we didn't need to do this. This was a situation where diplomacy could have worked, but Netanyahu finally got his puppet to do what he needed, that he'd been trying to get other presidents to do for years.
Exactly, and there's a reason why other presidents and bureaucrats have not chosen to use military force.
Didn't we learn anything in 79 and 80? Sorry.
Right. No, exactly. But and the whole terrain of the Middle East, which I think if people didn't figure out from, Iraq and Afghanistan, I don't know how to help people then if they didn't figure that out. Why there is no reason for our interests. And again, I'm not trying to undermine. I don't want to be so casual as to say Iraq is not a threat. That's not what I'm saying at all, and that's not what international relations and that's not what experts are saying.
Nope.
They're saying that there was no evidence that they have let's just call it weapons of mass destruction, so we can all be clear about where we are again. And you don't take action like this without those facts. And also, what has he accomplished? Well, military force is not going to be able to remove the threat of building nuclear weapons. What it has done is it has now made whatever they're going to do much more secretive. Yep. They will not be involving international inspectors, right? We won't have any information about what they are building or not building. So he took all of that away. Let's not forget that Republicans were completely against the JCPOA, and Trump pulled out of that in 2018, right? Yep. But they did not offer anything. An alternative, much like they do with Obamacare. They all they do, like a backseat driver, is point fingers from the backseat and scream and yell about how this is horrible and how this is awful and we shouldn't have it. We got to kill it. But when you ask them, what is your health care policy? What is your alternative? What is your alternative to the JCPOA? Nothing. They have nothing to offer.
Not
except
at all.
this, what he just did.
And blocking everything that the Biden-Harris administration was trying to do. Republicans were kicking up dust all along the way because what they that's why your article was so well written about Trump screws up and now Republicans own the Iran war. They do. Speak to that based on how you wrote this article and in this moment why the Republicans own this, because they kept getting in the way. But I'm sorry, sir, you speak to that for a moment.
No, that's actually Jason's article, but I agree completely with what he wrote. They own this because, I mean, I'll just say in every respect, they're out there right now. Like, they're still justifying why he only spoke to Republicans. They got no feedback. They got no input. They didn't even inform Democrats. This is not how Democrats would do this. Democrats are trying to fight and get the war powers resolution to get these power, to take this power. Well, he really doesn't have it, but to reinforce the fact that he doesn't have it, take it away from him. And Republicans are, except for one, they're not on board with that. So of course they own this. And then now when it inevitably fails, they will blame Democrats. Yeah. And the media will go along with that. This is what they always do, because let's not forget, what have they always painted themselves as, Republicans? The party of national security. What have they, let's say for the last 30 years, what have they put this country in danger with? Our national security.
Yeah.
And they put our troops in danger, but then they pretend that they support our troops. They only support poor people and people who are vulnerable, having no other option but the military, to get an education, to further themselves. They don't put the wealthy children in the military. They don't put their kids in the military.
Not in a readily regular fashion. Not in a way that says that they really do believe in the military and that they really do want to see that strength. They're going to send other children, other families' children, as has always been the case, to fight these battles. And
yes, exactly.
That's why I appreciate what Jason had written in your comments on that, in terms of the Republicans own this. You may have heard me say this earlier in the show, and our time goes by so fast, is that that Medvedev said that they, meaning Iran, will continue enrichment of nuclear material, and that several countries are ready to directly supply Iran with their own nuclear warheads.
Right.
So
exactly. That's the other thing. And where is the Trump deal making?
Yeah.
Some of the countries that they're talking about are countries that he has antagonized.
Right.
So, this is why when Republicans will say, Joe Biden and Barack Obama, they were weak because they were talking to these people. This is why they were talking to them. Because there is no other option, and you cannot isolate the United States. Trump seems to be pretty high on that supply. He's isolated us in a very dangerous way. But others know better. They knew better, and they know better, and so they knew we cannot. We have to keep talking, even with people you don't agree with. And that is a big reason why the United States has supported Israel, even when Netanyahu was taking it in such a I don't even know. I mean, I don't even have words. A horrific
that's a good
position,
enough word,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So because we have to have some kind of they give us intel on the Middle East. There's a lot of things that we get from that relationship, and people don't understand that part, and so they're really angry at Israel. Well, of course, they're really angry at Netanyahu, right? Because he's the one that's driving all of this. A lot of the Israeli people do not agree with what he's doing, much like Americans don't agree with what Trump is doing.
And many Iranians don't agree with what the Iranian parliament's doing. Same thing. Like I said,
right.
We've got the wrong people at the table at the wrong time that don't know how to negotiate. But Netanyahu acts like a bully. Trump acts like a bully, and in many ways, the Israeli parliament acts the same way. The people are not at fault, other than for continuing to elect, at least in the case here in the United States and in Israel, these same warmongers all over again for the same reason, and they just keep messing up, and the lesson we should have been learned, but here we go again, Sarah.
But why did the media let Trump, and I know we have to end soon, but why did they let Trump run as a peacemaker? When has he ever made peace? He doesn't make peace in his personal life. He's never made peace in his professional life. He operates like a warmonger on an individual level against women, as a sexual assaulter, against other people he's in business with, and against all of the opposition and anyone who comes up against him politically. He incites violence against them. He attacked the United States, for God's sakes. Why was he allowed to run as a peacemaker?
Yeah.
It blows my mind. A peacemaker is somebody who sits down to listen to other people's, what they need, what they want at the table. That is a peacemaker.
Donald, that's a great point. And let me say this as we wrap up. You asked a question about why did the media? Well, it's that thing called the almighty dollar. That was the only. I mean, obviously there are puppeteers in our mainstream media in America that want to see this because they benefit from it, if not directly, certainly indirectly. And the leaders of the top 5 media outlets, they benefit from it across the board. And so having a Trump in office, but it's also because their dollars are. Their dollars are flowing through these conversations, so that's their ratings and all the rest, their clicks. It's not overcomplicated, but that's where we are. Sarah, oh my gosh, track meet with you as always. Keeping up.
It's so good to talk to you. Thank you so much.
Guys,
really appreciate being here.
You guys have got to check out Sarah's work, Politicus USA. The writing is strong, it's informative, but most importantly, it pulls no punches, and that's one of the things that I love about what you and Jason are doing. So thanks for being with us this morning, Sarah.
Thanks for having me so much.
All right, have a great day today. We'll talk soon.
Bye-bye.
All right, Dev, let's go right to a break. 773-763-9278. When we come back, we're going to be talking about reproductive rights.
Porsche, the name alone exudes class, sends shivers down the spine. Now imagine yourself behind the wheel. Find your new Porsche at the Porsche Exchange in Highland Park. Browse and test drive our extensive selection, like the 2025 Porsche Cayenne. And right now, lease the 2025 Macan Electric for only $1049 a month for 39 months. Visit the Porsche Exchange in Highland Park or PorscheExchange.com. $8,909 dual signing. Excludes tax, title, license, and ACFA. No security deposit required. Expires 6/30/25.
Did you know you can get your prescriptions for less at your local pharmacy? You can with GoodRx. It's the free app that can save you money on your medications. Just search for your prescription, choose the pharmacy and the price that works best for you, and then show your GoodRx coupon to your pharmacist at the drop-off counter. GoodRx works at over 70,000 pharmacies, including Walmart, Rite Aid, and Walgreens, and it works whether you have insurance or not. It's easy to save. Next time you drop off your prescription, check GoodRx. To start saving today, go to GoodRx.com. GoodRx is not insurance.
The cost of mesothelioma treatments can exceed $400,000, and families often face losing their homes and life savings just to pay the bill. The Rights and Claims Department of Flint Cooper has helped victims secure financial support they need to pay for their care and ensure their family's future. If you've been diagnosed with mesothelioma and don't have legal representation, call Flint Cooper now at 800-606-8169. Time is running out for you to file a claim, so don't wait. Call 800-606-8169 for a free consultation.
Hey Progressives, this is Richard Chu, host of Chu's Views here on WCPT AM 820, 6 to 8 a.m. Monday through Friday. We have some real challenges in front of us as a country. Since the beginning of this show, I have always felt compelled to bring you the best that I've got. Now, there's always a why to doing whatever we do. So, as we go forward and face these challenges, know this, you listeners are my why. Because I want to make sure I do everything I can to provide a safe, open, forward-moving space that allows you to call, email, text, or just listen to a guy that wants to help you bring out your own championship qualities to truly make this place better for us all. Lofty goal, idealistic, maybe so. But that's my why, and I look forward to bringing you the best that I've got. This is Richard Chu. Stay tuned.
You're listening to WCPT 820. Here's the latest Chicago weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. An extreme heat warning remains in effect. We'll see sunny skies here for today with a high in the mid-90s, heat indices over 100, breezy southwest winds at 10 to 20 miles per hour, gusting as high as 35. For tonight, a slight chance for showers and storms, partly cloudy, low near 75. By Tuesday, chance for showers and thunderstorms, a blend of clouds and sunshine develops. We'll see a high around 90 degrees. That's your latest Chicago weather update.
Currently, it's 81.
You're listening to WCPT 820 because facts matter.
Welcome back to Choose Views with Richard Chew on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
Hey, Progressives, welcome back to the show. 773-763-9278. Just working through some technological issues as we get our guests lined up for this segment. I appreciate what Sarah was saying about the, how do I want to put this? We've got way too many people right now who have forgotten our very recent history. We've been down this path before. And going down this path, when you've got incompetent people at the helm, if you will, or at the negotiating table, is destructive. It is dangerous. And I candidly say that the Bush administration, Bush 2, did not have the best negotiators at the table. They had hawks. They had hardliners. And hardliners don't want to negotiate. All they want to do is make it seem as though they've got the power to do whatever they want to do. And we went after, and listen, there were Democrats and Republicans who, because of the awful attack that took place on 9/11, wanted retribution. Let's just call it as it is. We know that happened. And, I talked about this over the weekend, that one of the things that Barack Obama, when he was running, pointed out about Hillary Clinton, which had a stinging effect. The punch did land, is that, she voted for the approval of us to go into Afghanistan. And that, he was able to point out that wasn't what needed to happen. And so, here we are again with our, we have the wrong people at the table. I'm just going to stay on that point. The people at the table right now don't know what the hell they're doing. And worse than during the Bush administration, as I said when Sarah was on, at least some of those people had some awareness. Wrong in their application. But there you go. All right. Let's not pivot too hard, but just make a slight little slight adjustment in what we're talking about this morning, but it still comes back to a very important issue and an issue that's around policy. And with us this morning are two fighters in this conversation around women's reproductive rights. And with us this morning, and I got to get the order right and the name right and the timing right. First, Caitlin Cash, who has been a big part of the lawsuit that took place in 2023 down in Texas, Zorowski versus Texas lawsuit. And along with her is Veronica Ingham, who is with Free and Just organization that has been a leading voice in making certain that women's rights, reproductive rights specifically, are addressed on a state level, on a national level, and that it becomes a part of our society that makes certain that we make certain that women's reproductive rights are not something that just is a political football, but they become part of our everyday lives. And these two women have really been at the tipping point. So I want to welcome Caitlin and Veronica to Choose Views.
Awesome. Thank you. This is Veronica.
Hey,
Hi, this is Caitlin. Thanks so much for having us.
All right. I'm glad we both got you guys on. Sometimes technology is your friend, and then sometimes it's like the enemy that just lurks in the corner that says, no, I'm not going to let you connect with people who you're going to have on your show. And no, we're not going to have a good solid connection. But I'm glad to have you both with us this morning, and thank you for taking some time. The anniversary of Dobbs is right upon us. Literally right now, while we're talking, we're in the midst of that awful decision as it relates to how the Supreme Court reversed Roe v. Wade and really upended the lives of millions of people. If we could, let's start with you, Caitlin, in terms of your thoughts about this. I hate to call it an anniversary, but given the time frame, it is it does mark the third anniversary, and maybe you could chat a little bit about how this has impacted you and what you're doing in this moment, and then Veronica, maybe a little bit of commentary from you. So, Caitlin, you start first.
Yeah, thank you again so much. So, yeah, I think for me, the Dobbs anniversary is just very, I really just am surreal that it's been for years. I distinctly remember June 24th, 3 years ago, and I sat silently, just sobbing in my bedroom for hours because as I was watching all this unfold, I just knew what was going to happen to women in the next few weeks after this ruling because it had already happened to me. Because SB 8, as you guys know, went into effect before Dobbs. And so SB 8 went into effect in Texas on September 1st of 2021. And at that time, I was pregnant. And so then at my doctor's appointment in October, at my 13-week appointment, I found out that our baby had a rare genetic anomaly and that his bones were going to begin breaking in utero and that he was going to suffocate at birth. And my doctor told me that I needed to go get a second opinion, but outside of Texas. And so I knew very personally what it was going to be like for doctors and patients who were currently pregnant at that moment. It was this huge policy shift that they were going to expect to take place in a day. And we watched what that did in Texas, and they don't come up with the things that need to happen behind the scenes to make sure if they're going to impose these moral laws on us, you have to take time to think through all of the procedural implications that are going to be taken in healthcare, and they don't. And so it is literally this flip of a switch, and your life will be forever changed. And so for me, the Dobbs anniversary is just very bittersweet because I just knew what was going to start happening to women. And we've heard those women. They keep coming forward, and that's why organizations like Free and Just are so important, because as these bans continue to get worse and worse, more women are going to keep coming forward and saying, this is happening to me.
And that's, for me, I remember that as well from a guy's perspective, as best I can analyze it. I think about my older sisters who fought. I mean, they're older than me enough to speak to, literally, they fought for Roe v. Wade. And I remember sending a text message to my oldest sister, and I said, all I can say is I'm sorry that this has happened. And her response back to me, Caitlin and Veronica, was, I thought that this is something that we would not have to cross the bridge again to fight for, because she literally was one of the women in the 60s and early 70s that was fighting for this type of legislation. And so that's how it impacted me in a strange sort of way. I thought about my older sisters who were on the line. They were on the fighting line early in this battle, so that women, your ages and younger than my sisters would be able to have this reproductive freedom. Veronica, if you could tell us a little bit about your organization and tell us a little bit about what you guys are doing. I know that this weekend and through tomorrow, you've got this really wonderful event taking place called 100 Voices, if I've got that correct.
Yes. Thank you so much. And I really appreciate your story about how, you thought about your sister and how this impacted her, because I think that is one of the most important parts of the work that we do is everyone knows somebody in their lives that has been impacted by an abortion ban, and it's very important that they hear and continue to see stories that they can relate to, and that is really fundamentally how our organization works. We are a network and community of abortion storytellers, so we have over 250 abortion storytellers across the country, and this week, around the anniversary of Dobbs, we have brought over 100 storytellers to Washington, D.C., to be in community and to really learn from each other. There are so many women here who have stories similar to Caitlin, who have experienced unbelievable trauma sort of as a result of these abortion bans across the country. And we really want to bring these folks together to share their stories and talk about how we can continue to do this fight. And then on Tuesday, the actual anniversary on June 24th, we will be taking all 100 of those storytellers to Capitol Hill to meet with members of Congress, to share with them why it is so important that we have abortion protections across the country. So it's a really special event, and Caitlin actually is going to be leading one of our sort of trainings for storytellers, because she has become such an advocate and activist in her own right in the state of Texas, fighting against these horrific bills. And so she can take a lot of the sort of lessons she's learned to these storytellers and teach people how to become leaders in their own community like she has. So we're very proud of her and excited.
Well, and to that point, and thank you, Veronica. And we're going to come back to what you guys will be doing. We're going to be doing with Congress. Caitlin, if you could take just a moment and share with our listeners the impact of the lawsuit that you were a part of, and where those stories have led you as it relates to the storytelling, and the more and more plaintiffs that joined, and how you guys, with this lawsuit, have created a whole community of folks who need to have their stories heard.
Yeah, I always say one of the best things that came out of the lawsuit was getting to find each other. We talk about ourselves as like the club that you really never wanted to be a part of. None of us wanted to lose our pregnancies. None of us wanted to have our health put at risk, but we're here. And so that really bonds you. And we've stayed connected past, the ruling in the lawsuit in Texas. And this past January, a lot of us were talking, and we just said, okay, well, what are we going to keep doing? It's not better yet. What are we going to do? And when Texas was in its legislative session this past spring, we really just showed up, and we went to our representatives, and we called our state senators, and we said, okay, what are we doing? What are you guys doing about these laws, and how can we help? How can we keep the stories front and center? And how can we let other Texas women know where to go and what to do, right? We know that this is still happening. We know that some storytellers aren't coming forward as much anymore, definitely because it may not feel like these stories are helping, right? We're not seeing that immediate legislative change that we want, but we felt like it was really important to keep being there for Texas women. And so we engaged this legislative session, and Texas had a bill up called the Life of the Mother Act. It was a bill that was supposedly helping to seek clarification around when a doctor can intervene to save the life of the mother. And in that law, though, there was a backdoor kind of Trojan horse that would have amended the 1925 abortion statute in Texas. And there is a judge who had said, if the legislature amends the 1925 law, then it is considered law. And that would have allowed Texas, the AG, to prosecute women and anyone for furnishing the means to an abortion. And so we, galvanized really quickly, and we spoke up, and we said, if there was ever a possibility to make things work in Texas, which we didn't think it was possible to make it worse, this would make it worse. I mean, this would send everything underground. This would send the resources and how we help people online who get these devastating pregnancy diagnoses. Fatal fetal anomaly is not an exception in Texas. And this is happening every day. Women are being told that their babies are going to die, and that their only option is to carry that pregnancy to term, and they're forced to give birth if they can't seek care outside of the state. And this would have made it impossible for us to even give advice to those women on where to go get that care. And so we fought really hard, and we explained to lawmakers, and we went and we met with Republicans and Democrats, because to me, this is not a political issue. This is my life.
Yeah.
This was my life and my family, and I don't care if I have to talk to a Republican who thinks I'm a murderer, or if I have to talk to a Democrat. I'm going to talk to them, and I'm going to tell them that this would have made it worse. And we were really grateful that they listened, and they did end up adding an amendment to that bill before it passed that said this bill cannot be used to revive the 1925 law. And it was a small victory, but it was a victory. And so I think, women need to see that, right? Because when we share our personal experiences and we make these things real for people, it really can have an impact.
And it has, because to my reading, it's a freedom, in my observation, and my reading of what took place, it's also a freedom of speech issue because people who were just trying to consult and counsel women who had been, for lack of better words, diagnosed with a pregnancy that was going to be tragic. I hate to put it that way. Just communicating with someone was this. Had you not been able to get this done, it would have made it, darn near illegal for two women to sit and talk about this in a way that was going to be productive to that woman's health. And so you may think it was small, but I think that work made it broke the fever in some parts of this, not entirely, but in certain parts of this. Otherwise, as some people would have said, it could have gone in a much more tragic way. I want to ask you guys both this question. This is one that I'm always perplexed by. Because ultimately, it's about legislation. It's about what laws get brought to the floor of a state house, and then which go up the chain of legislative approvals, and it becomes something that people then say, "Well, that's the law. This is what the law says in this state." And then you go to a different state, and the law is different. Illinois is a good example. But from a societal standpoint, how have we gotten to this point? What if you guys, when you sit down and think and you talk to your colleagues all over the country, how have we gotten to a place where it is more important for a legislative body to tell a family, a woman specifically, that even if there's a problem with that child's survival, you have to? How have we gotten there? What if there's a seminal moment? And as a guy, I'm trying to keep my opinion out of this as best I can. But what do you guys see as boots on the ground women fighting this fight? What took place? What has taken place? Has it been a slow-moving train, or has there been something?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, here's what I will say, right? We are in this crisis, and we're facing this right at the 3-year anniversary of a groundbreaking Supreme Court decision that overturned Roe v. Wade, and was only made possible because of Trump-appointed judges, both at like the district level, and Caitlin can talk about some of those pieces, but also at the Supreme Court. We would not be here today if Roe v. Wade had not been overturned by Trump-appointed judges on the Supreme Court. I will not mince words with that. But I also think what's clear in terms of sort of what has happened is we've seen the consequences of a 50-state, what a states' rights sort of policy looks like for abortion across this country, and it is not safe and not sustainable for women, and that this is something that needs to be protected at the federal level because we cannot. This is too important for this to be left to the states, and I think that that's a really important piece to say here. But yes, and that's what I would say about kind of how we got to this point.
Caitlin, what are your thoughts there?
I think it's all of that, and I also think it's the fact that we are letting lies continue to be told about abortion, and you can have an abortion up until until the baby's born. Well, no, that's not the case. That's not what doctors are doing, and we're letting all these lies be told, and that's what's really impacting a lot of these fatal fetal diagnoses, right? These things aren't discovered very early, right? You can't see them, you can't diagnose them. And so when a woman gets a diagnosis at 13 weeks or 20 weeks, right, the doctors are taking their time. They're doing more tests. They're doing more studies. And then this family is faced with this decision of how do we want to continue to protect our child and to ease their pain. And that is a very personal moral decision that a family should get to make with the advice of their doctor. They shouldn't be racing a time limit of when they have to make this decision. That was my situation. My baby, I was 13 weeks at the diagnosis, and his bones were going to begin breaking, and we were up against a clock of when I could get to what state to get the abortion that I needed. And so I wasn't able to get all of the medical advice that I needed. I wasn't able to counsel and talk about grief and do all of the things that other people are allowed to do in medical decisions. And so I just think people need to really listen to the women who are having these experiences, not the people claiming what is happening in the medical community. I also think, I've heard you mention a couple times, like, as a man, you don't want to step on our issue, but I think what my husband, if he were here, would be saying is women's rights change from state to state, but his right to help save his wife also changes from state to state. Mm-hmm. His right to have a wife and my son's right to have a mother changes based on where I live. My first abortion was with my fatal fetal anomaly. My third abortion was after my daughter was born. She was born and her heart was beating in her father's arms, and I needed a D&C to remove my placenta because it wouldn't deliver, and I was left to bleed for an hour and 49 minutes. Because the hospital couldn't get the procedure done. And my husband watched me be wheeled out on a gurney while he held my daughter with blood on the floor, wondering if he was ever going to see his wife again. And it's a family issue. Like, right. We all have a role to play in this. My son was not going to have a mother. My daughter wasn't going to have a mother. My husband wasn't going to have a wife. And that deeply impacted him as well. And so I think that part of this is it's not just a woman's issue, it's a family issue.
And that's one of the things that's been so great about how you guys have fought this. And when I say not step on it, I mean not being the guy that needs to be the one that knows the most in the conversation, but being the supportive guy that says we have to listen to the women in our lives and then be supportive to the point that you made. And I read the story and saw some of the comments from your husband in that space. You guys have been great, and this is a topic that it's not even, I don't even know how to end this segment other than to say thank you both for being with us. Free and Just, real quick, before we do wrap up, Veronica, you guys have got some great stuff happening in the weeks to come. I know that you're going to be, you've got the event that's taking place now, but there's some other things that are happening with do I have this right, the Artists for Abortion Access? Am I right about that?
Yes. So in addition to what we are doing here in D.C. with all of our storytellers and who will be traveling to Capitol Hill to share their stories, we've also been commissioning several different murals across the country. We just unveiled one in Georgia yesterday around the Dobbs anniversary in honor of Amber Thurman and Candy Miller, who were two women who lost their lives in Georgia due to an abortion ban. We wanted to find a way to continue to tell their story, continue to share what has happened. And so we're very grateful to do that.
Well, thank you both for being with us. We will have to have you back because we got so much more to talk about. But thanks for being with us this morning. We appreciate you taking the time out. We're going to wrap up, guys. The number, of course, always is 773-763-9278. Thanks to the ladies for being with us. This is Choose Views. We'll see you tomorrow. Take a deep breath and make your life count.
It's nice to know someone is on your side. Mark Drugs always has your back. No two dogs are the same. A dosage form or strength of medication that works for one dog may not work for another. A compounding pharmacy like Mark Drugs is here to help you with your pet's medication challenges. We'll be happy to help you when your pet is sick. After all, it can affect the whole family. That's why we give our four-legged patients customized medications to make it easier for them to take. For pet medication problems, first see your veterinarian. Then talk to your hometown independent compounding pharmacy, Mark Drugs. If you'd like to know more about the ways we can personalize medication for each individual patient, we'd be happy to help. We are a compounding pharmacy, which means we can prepare the medication prescribed in a strength and dosage form that meets the patient's needs. Ask us how our pharmacy can help. You have a choice when it comes to your health care, and a great choice is Mark Drugs and Roselle and Deerfield, where you get better health and care for you and your pets. Check out the Pet of the Month at markdrugs.com.
This is WCPT